Rich, could you tell me about Car and Classic, but whilst clearing your throat like Tom Jones?
No problem. Car and Classic is Europe's biggest classic sales site with over 35,000 cars and bikes for sale at any time. And now they do online auctions where you get professional photos, a detailed write-up, a secure payment service, and the chance to get your classic in front of 4 million monthly visitors. And all of Car and Classic's seller fees are only payable when your car actually sells.
Thank you. Smith & Sniff is sponsored by Car and Classic.
I knew Elvis, you know. I'm Richard Porter.
I'm Johnny Smith.
And this is Smith & Sniff, a podcast in which two friends talk about cars and many other things.
Happy New Year, 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 Happy New Year.
Related Happy New Year, because last week's podcast was a pre-record from before
of course.
The New Year, but now we're live and direct in 2023.
Well, in typical Smith & Sniff style, we're so late that instead of this being a Happy New Year, I think this goes out on what is classed as Blue Monday, the most depressing day of the year. But
is it?
I think so. But I might be wrong there.
The second Monday of a new year is the most depressing day.
I think so, because the first one, some people still aren't back at work and, you know, you're still eating a little bit of Yule log and you're still wiping, you know, nut roast off your chin. That sounds wrong.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean?
Some shops and public spaces have still got the Christmas tape going. Tape. However they play music in shops these days.
That's right.
Probably still a tape. But
yes.
I've not long been back from the Americas and landed at Heathrow, and it's 2023, and we've got the Christmas music playing in the loos.
No way.
Because I'm guessing,
because no one's gone in there over Christmas.
No one's gone in there. Management haven't gone in there and gone, hang on a minute, snow is falling. No, not now.
But maybe it's therapy. It could be toilet therapy. It might encourage people to not loiter in the labs. Lav loiter. It's an anti-lav loiter campaign. You play lots of festive music outside of festive times, and it just works. It's great. We just before we press record, we both admitted to one another that we are dressed in a terrible way recording this podcast.
Awful.
I'm not leaving the house in this way. I couldn't. But I'm not. I don't look as bad as a chap that I have observed, and I think I messaged you. This was 3 days before Christmas. 2 days before Christmas. Eve. And I was going through town, you know, mopping up a couple of last-minute preparations and all that. And, yeah, you know what I mean? And but also maybe going to the pub for a drink. And saw a Mercedes ML parked on the double yellows outside the art gallery. Do you remember I messaged you? And of course,
yes.
52 plate Doom Blue, of course.
By the way, not suggesting that now, because I've been in America and I've been hanging around with my extended family, my wife's family, and the word bougie has been used quite a lot over Christmas for some reason. I don't know why. It's kept coming up. I don't think it's a word we use here very much, but, you know, it sort of means like shishi, I think.
Now,
bougie.
I've heard it in that Beyonce song to do with Ratchet and something as well. It's bougie, something, and ratchet, and I don't know what any of those three things mean. Well, I think of ratchet
straps.
Well, maybe Beyonce is singing about either ratchet spanners, because they are frigging useful, or
it's true.
Ratchet straps. Yeah, she's doing a bit of she's doing a tip run. That's what she's doing.
Oh, see, I thought she's still got that light haulage company that she runs with her sister, Solange, and Solange.
What, Destination's Child is the...
No, that's different.
And it's haulage. Hi, Beyonce. Got to send a pallet of candles to the Netherlands. Is that going to be all right?
Yeah. Uh-oh. There's a lot of paperwork these days, she says. She's based in the UK.
Yeah.
So anyway, yes, sorry. No, I was just going to say that I'm going to use the word bougie for our American listeners. I would not suggest that you live in a bougie town, but you have an art gallery, which is pretty swish.
Well, there's actually 3.
What?
Yeah, but I think...
Art galleries or art shops?
No, there's 3 art galleries and 1 art shop.
Mm.
Yeah. But, you know, I'm always a bit I think I've had this conversation with you before, but I think they're intentional losses. Some art galleries, they're set up. They're set up to be intentional tax bleed outs.
Interesting.
For what? Yeah, because nobody questions them.
These are the kind of places that would put on a show of someone's works, but it would all be for sale. So they're sort of shops.
They're sort of for sale.
That kind of place.
Yeah, it's never a hard sale, but they're there and they cruise around. Very popular in affluent seaside towns, although I don't live in a seaside town.
Yeah. Yeah.
So picture this. Guys, listen. Here's the situation. Merc ML 52 plate, Doom Blue, double yellows, outside the art gallery, narrow street. Every panel is crinkled. Every single panel. I noticed that immediately.
Sorry, I have to just stop you there. Important detail.
Yeah.
First gen ML.
Yes.
Ooh.
The really rubbishy one that nobody
really
likes.
Rubbishy one. And they go bad quickly, don't they? They always look terrible.
Faded plastics, just totally unloved. Just looks like a dog that never gets walked. Okay, every panel's crinkled. One of the side indicators just isn't there. There's a holder and some wires. And it's got a dog stick tow bar. You know the ones.
Of course.
It looks more like the anchor of a trawler. And I start chuckling a bit. The guy comes out the shop who I think owns, or his wife owns, the gallery.
Ooh, that's good tax. That's a good tax thing in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is.
It's all in my wife's name.
Of course, he's probably a dodgy builder, and his wife's, I don't know, a bit better read than he is, and just says, I want to set an art gallery up, and he's done a little bit of rooting around and gone, yeah, that's a great idea. You set up an art gallery, and we'll bleed it out carefully. Anyway, this could be a totally legit art gallery. I'm not going to name it because it could be wonderful. So the guy is wearing really slack, shapeless jeans, and he looks like he's had to get out of bed in a hurry. Like a sort of fire alarm hurry. And in fact, he looks like we do today. I'm wearing gym shorts down below and a dog breeder fleece on the top. It's just a complete mess.
I see. I'm wearing unflattering tracky bottoms and a dog breeder fleece, but I've paired them with some slip-on trainers and no socks, Euro style. And the tracky bottoms, for your information, do not go. They're too short for me, basically. I don't. Anyway, sorry.
So what? Hang on. Look, at a flash, you could get away with aggressively driving a 1 Series 2-door around town.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
I believe that these tracky bottoms are designed like this. However, it's not a style that I'm particularly on board with because I've got cold ankles now. But yeah, I look like a trombonist.
Okay.
In the DSG sense of things.
Yes. Right. Okay.
At the bottom, anyway.
Saw a few of those over Christmas. I'll talk about them in a minute. Yeah. Doom Blue 52 plate, and I'm chuckling a bit because he just looks the guy just looks annoyed and troubled. So he's shuffling around in very oversized slack. I don't think he's got a belt, shapeless jeans, and a kind of jacket. Yeah. Was
it a linen jacket, or were we the wrong time of year for that?
I think it was. Actually, but doesn't look clean or.
No,
it looks like it was by the bedside and he just put it on quickly because it was what he wore yesterday. And maybe
that he actually slept in it by mistake. Because he'd had a little bit too much of a cheeky Shiraz last night.
I think you might be right. In fact, none of these clothes came off him last night. He just got off the bed and just put his...
And he slept in the ML for tax reasons.
The ML was so shit. Honestly, it's so shit. But it made it so much better. The fact that and he had sort of silvery, wiry camtail hair.
Well, this is what I was very pleased about when you messaged me about this guy and gave me a few pointers, like a few bullet points about what he was wearing and the car. I was very pleased that I was able to accurately guess what kind of hair he had.
Yes,
and it's that sort of thatch, isn't it?
It is a thatch. In fact, from the back, from the back, from 30 feet away, he could have been early 90s Gordon Murray.
Yes,
you know what I mean. As in just the head. Gordon Murray is of a slim build. This chap wasn't particularly. Okay. So kind of imagine that. But then, this is what made it just so much better. I was going quite close to the ML because I had to cross the road, and I just peered inside, and it was an absolute mess in there. Honestly, it looked like a pair of squirrels that had a huge fight in there. Really unloved, like the rest of the car. But the centre console had a Chris Rea CD propped onto it. Yeah, which is just fantastic. And you know the drawer that opens, which has the cigarette lighter in it and the tray, the ashtray.
Yes.
That was absolutely brimming full. You know, like a festival toilet of cigarette butts and ash. It was so full. Like if he'd done a hard left or right hand turn. It
would have just tipped ash.
It would have just tapped it, and it would have gone into the air like talc, and he would have had a huge crash because he wouldn't have been able to see anything. There would have been proper ash fog inside the car. So, but
that again just adds to the story that the overflowing ashtray plus you saying he sort of had a look on his face and the shabby car and the shabby clothes that this all just points to financial turmoil in his life.
Yeah, but they're running quite a good looking art gallery, a presentable art gallery in a decent part of town. So is it a facade? Is he genuinely living in the ML and just so that he can keep his wife happy with a nice gallery? She doesn't know the true story. You know, he's running. Anyway, the ML, I mean, if that ML is still on the road in 2 years' time, I'm willing to eat anyone's hat. But
I would love to see its MOT history.
Oh gosh,
if it's got one.
I bet it crabs wildly. He's the kind of guy that never checks the oil, and then on Christmas Eve realises he's got to see his dying mother, who he doesn't particularly like, and she's 5 hours drive away, and he just gets straight in it. No oil check, no water check. Doesn't even put a bottle of water in the car for himself. Just has. He knows he's got cigs. He knows he's got a lighter. He just gets straight in, heating on, Chris Rea CD on again because the aerial's broken, so there's no radio possibilities. Yeah, he's that guy.
Well, the ML is perfect because nothing looks as pitiful as almost any. Are there any original shape MLs left that don't look shit because the plastics have all gone? That was a cheap looking car, wasn't it? It was like design wise, it was too narrow somehow.
Yes,
and they were horrible inside, weren't they? And they were just quite badly made by all accounts.
It was just a low point in the Benz kind of history books. I'm of the opinion that any earlier luxury SUV, so we're talking what, late 90s, very early millennium era, I don't think any of them right now have been looked after, and I don't think anybody likes any of them really. I think they're in this. They should all just be engine donors and then weighed in. You know, like a sort of. I think it's Romania where they have an annual dog cull for wild dogs.
What do they?
Yeah, because there's loads of dogs and they form gangs. This is true. I think it's Romania. Is Bucharest in Romania? It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Bucharest. Yeah, there's huge gangs of dogs.
Oh, okay.
And there's always a leader dog.
Is there?
Yeah, and they live on waste ground and they create havoc because there's packs of them. They almost go a bit wolfy and wild.
Yeah.
And every year, they're somebody's job to kind of round them up and put them down. It's quite sad, but there's a big dog population problem. So I think we should do a similar thing to aging shitty SUVs.
I'm just imagining a cartoon series about these wild dogs with their leader. It's a charismatic bulldog cross mongrel.
Yes.
The leader. But they're going to... They sing The Who. People try to put us down. And then...
it has a neckerchief. It would have a neckerchief.
Oh, of course it'll have a neckerchief.
Because the leader always does.
Yeah.
In fact, this
guy...
But
he might have an eye patch as well.
Of course, and a war scar.
Yes.
In fact, the guy, Shapeless Jeans guy from the in the 52 plate ML, maybe he had a neck scarf. I didn't.
I think he's also got a tweed jacket that's equally battered and got stains on it, but that's probably got handkerchief in the pocket. Just
before, and we're going to finish this conversation because it's gone on way too long about the old knackered ML guy. But he'll see and they're they're quite brutal around my way, the traffic warden, and he'll run out. Well, I say run, let's put run in inverted commas, because he hasn't really done his shoes up either. And he'll run out and go, "No, I've just unloaded one thing. I'm off. I'm gone." And he just gets in it, puts it in D, like almost before the engine's caught on. Full lock, and clangs it down the curb really aggressively in that way that would make you wince, Richard. But, of course, at that moment in time, Fool If You Think It's Over by Chris Rea is on the CD player, which just carries on.
It's almost his theme tune, I'm thinking.
What Fool If You Think It's Over?
Yeah, I think so. Something, because it's a bit sad.
Yeah, it is a bit sad.
I also imagine he gets into a marked parking bay and then just dunks it into park before the cars actually come to a stop.
Oh, he's 8 miles an hour into P, guy. I mean, we've talked about this before. I know the sort of the abuse of auto boxes, which is rife in films, American films we've seen. But yeah, he's that guy. He is absolutely that guy, because he just doesn't care. He's like,
we were talking. That was in the last show, wasn't it? The live Q&A was when we discovered that at least one audience member was a wrong and
Autobox wrong and
Autobox wrong. I was speaking of, just quickly, a little a kind of apology, not really an apology, but for the podcast we did recently that was titled Limp Home Mode. We've had quite a few people going, "You bastards, it came up on the dash of my car."
Oh,
I guess some cars, they'll show you what you're playing in the little display between the dials, or if it's a full TFT dash, it'll appear somewhere there. And quite a few people went, "I had a brief moment of panic when I saw Limp Home Mode written on the dash of my car." So sorry
gosh,
about that.
Of course.
I hope you enjoy this episode, which I might call Warning Low Tyre Pressure.
Can we call this severe panel damage, or something to do with the ML guy? Tracking out.
Tracking out.
Yeah, tracking out. Just something like an intelligent car might try and inform you of. Let's do that. I think that's a cool idea.
I wanted to tell you about. So I've been in America for Christmas and New Year, visiting family.
Have a nice day.
Have a nice day.
Yeah, you're all set, Richard. You're all set.
You're all set.
You're all set.
You're all set is one of those underrated Americanisms that people don't.
You just don't hear it outside of America.
No.
Nobody says it in the UK ever.
Maybe to jelly.
Yes.
Or Jello.
Of course, Jello and Jello.
Yeah. It's just to open the fridge, you go, "Oh, you're all set." But I went to America, and when I was in California, I borrowed a Ford F-150 Lightning, the all-electric pickup truck.
Oh,
which you've driven in the UK.
I've reviewed it
for the Late Break.
Yeah,
show.
I loved it. I really liked it.
Well, let me tell you, I loved it too. I drove that thing for 12 days, so almost 2 weeks.
Did you sleep in it wearing some fairly slack jeans?
I didn't.
And
maybe I should have done.
Yeah, just checking. Did you smoke in it relentlessly?
No. Oh. It doesn't feel like that kind of truck, because it feels modern.
It feels
in most ways. I mean,
in all seriousness, I think it's such an exciting product. I just think it does all the things you'd want a pickup truck to do, but kind of better than a lot of pickups.
This was my take on it.
I just was like, this drives so well. And it's so damn quick, way quicker than you want it to.
Oh, my God.
Isn't it?
So, well, because it's got quite a relaxed throttle action. So you can drive it perfectly normally and have almost no sense of what's unleashed if you clog it. You just go, "This picks up well." And things like, well, I'll get onto this in a minute, because I want to talk about American roads and how badly designed they are sometimes. But, when you're trying to emerge onto one of those American freeways, and it can be quite perilous, and I'm always amazed that Americans don't just, drive into the side of each other, like in an 80s car chase where they're just banging, or a British touring car race.
Yes.
Involving Jason Plato, where they're just, side panelling each other.
Yeah.
And because it's sometimes their junctions are just, it feels like they're designed to create an accident if you're not paying attention. And so sometimes just to merge your way onto a freeway, you need just a little a little squirt.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's great for that, as EVs generally are, because you've got all the torque all the time. It's £775 foot of torque, which is
and it's mad.
plentiful. But then, so I hadn't really done much kind of clogging it, because we're on a family holiday, and I've got the kids in the back. And this is the thing. One of the things about that truck is that it's got the what do they call it? Mega Power frunk at the front.
Yes, that's right.
Because we picked it up at the airport when we arrived, and I was like, it hasn't got a bed cover on it. And we've got luggage.
Yes. And you had a small panic.
Well, I was a bit like, this is inconvenient. But then most of our luggage went in the Mega Power frunk, where it's secure and dry, and it was all fine. And
it's big.
And then it's big. And then there's loads of room. I don't know, I've sort of not been paying attention, but I guess most trucks now in the US, it seems, are crew cabs. It's very rare you see just a single door on each side.
Yeah.
Single cab, is what I'm trying to say. But I hadn't fully clocked how a US full-size truck, how roomy they are, because of course they're frigging massive, so they bloody ought to be. But there's just bags of space inside, and that's just, the Lightning uses the body of the normal F-150 mostly. So that's just what F-150s are like.
Did you use any of the rear storage area? The seats where you can lift them up and put stuff.
I didn't even know they were there until my boy lost a little Lego figure. It went down the seatbelt well.
Yeah.
My wife went, let's have a look. And then she went, I think these seats fold up somehow. And I was like, oh, okay, well, yes, maybe they do. Let's have a little look. Pulled the tab and boom, the cushion flips up from the front. The front flips up.
That's right.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
And so, and then sort of lays against the backrest.
Yeah.
And you've got this whole storage compartment under there.
And
I wanted to use it just on the principle of going, that's really clever, and it's another place to put stuff that's hidden away. There are so many storage areas in that car.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. I mean, you do, if you've used one as a holiday car, and we did a bit of sort of low-key road tripping, went up the California coast a little bit. And you just then, when you're clearing out, it's a half-hour job to make sure that you've not left anything in any of the storage compartments. But in terms of usability, as a family car and as a vacation car, it was bloody great. But then I was out on my own in it. I went over to see a mate for a coffee, and on the way back I encountered a man in a wide-body Dodge Charger, so one of the sort of Hellcat engined ones.
Yeah.
But basically we were at the lights, and it was a like kind of, okay, I think we're on here. And so I clogged it, and I wasn't ready for the torque steer.
It's damn quick.
Oh, my holy
Did you destroy
Christ.
him?
Of course it's... Yeah. Well, he was left in my mirror, put it that way. And then the next light, he was turning off. And he gave me a nice wave as a sort of, like kind of...
Respect wave.
Better. Yeah, it was a bit, I think.
He didn't do... Did he do finger pistols or anything like that?
No, nor real pistols, which was my slight concern, because you can never be too careful.
I'd love that. You'd go, oh, look, he's doing finger pistols. You went, no, that's,
oh my
that's
God,
pistols.
He's got metal fingers.
Yes.
Hugely impressive thing. I just thought the only thing is, I mean, if you're a proper truckist, and I think, that I read somewhere, I think that like 80% of pickup truck owners in the US tow things.
Yeah.
And I gather that if you do towing, it absolutely crucifies the range.
It does, and that was the biggest. All of the comments when I did the review of it in Britain were like, but you can't tow it. I tow 4 tons every day, 100 miles, and it's like, well, just the same as the electric transit van, which I also think is a really good product. That's not then right for you. If you definitely tow a big thing day in, day out, it's not quite right for you, unless you tow that big thing 20 miles each way, in which case that's cool. But if you're crossing continents or whatever, then maybe not. But the thing I think about that Lightning is it's a reminder that it is possible for manufacturers to make a stylish, really practical car still these days. In other words, a car that's just got so many useful openings and folding out areas and luggage. And it's because I review so many cars which just disappoint me. That you just go, this is a big car, And yes, it's safe, and yes, it's luxurious. But when it comes down to the but where do you put stuff? And look at the shape of the place where you put the stuff. The shape's not right. So in other words, it's just not right from the start.
Yeah, no, it's true.
It's just not good enough.
Particularly doing road trips.
Yeah,
you go. Oh no, I've got some snacks. I've got a drink. I've got my phone. There's always little bits and pieces. Maybe you want somewhere to stick your wallet because you know you're going to need to get your card out to do a toll or something, and it's just you want places to put things.
Yeah.
And that truck is extraordinarily good for that. I mean, I'm guessing most of that is F-150 generic, and all F-150s are that useful, but I think they've added some extra features to the
Mega,
to the Lightning.
yeah, the Mega,
because it's got quite a lot of tech on it, hasn't it, which is good. But I love the fact that it's got lane keep assist, which is just, as bullshit as all those systems are, in that it just interferes too much when sometimes you don't want it to. And there's one button on the wheel that turns it off, and then it's off, and it doesn't come back on again, even when you restart it. And I just think that's the gold standard for how those systems should be.
Yeah.
And the same with the Radar Cruise. It's got this sort of, what do they call it? Blue Cruise is Ford's brand name for sort of
Blue Cruise,
low level. I'm not going to say self-driving because it's nothing but it's anything but that. But it is attempting to keep you in your lane and doing the usual Radar Cruise, distancing from the car in front if it needs to. And it's just that they're always so unrelaxing, those systems, aren't they? Because they're too close to one side. They suddenly disengage if they can't clearly see white lines, and they're just bullshit. But then again, the same button, just that's it, took away that function. Still Radar Cruise, but just without trying to do any steering.
That's what you want.
So things like that, the sort of simplicity and the straightforwardness of some of the tech on that thing is one of the reasons I thought it was so good. It's not just the electricalness and the usefulness, it's the fact that I think it feels like a car that's been really well thought through.
Yeah.
And I liked that a lot.
I agree. And this is consumer information that we're doing now.
It really is. Well, this is the thing. So I was going to say, on the point about towing, I think that's the thing. That's the one area where it seems like it's truck utility is not up there with a petrol-powered equivalent. But after we were in California, we flew to Arizona, and we stayed at the end of our trip with some friends of ours in a sort of the suburban Greater Phoenix area. They're in a region called Gilbert, if anyone knows it. It's a very pleasant little town within the sort of sprawl of Phoenix. And our friend has an F-150. And if you look down all the streets in suburban Phoenix, there are trucks on the drive everywhere. It's almost comical. I wish I'd taken a picture.
How common it is.
Do you ever see that? Was it the first Harry Potter movie? They all the cars on the driveway in that cul-de-sac where Harry Potter grows up, when it's a flashback, they're all Cavaliers, and in the present day, they were all Vectras because that was the current medium-sized Vauxhall. And it was just a neat little way of going, this is quite a generic street. But a generic street in suburban Phoenix has just got pickup trucks on every other driveway. Folds, well, also a bit of Ram action.
Of course.
A bit of GMC.
Yeah. Ram action.
but it's like, so our mate who's got the F-150, it's a few years old, it's a V8 in Lariat spec, so it's quite swanky.
That is.
And it's kind of their family car, but he has got some properties which he renovates, or he has other people renovate them, but he has cause to go and lug about stuff occasionally. And then they used to have a house up in the mountains, and they used to go up there and, he'd take sort of like all the kids' bikes and stuff like that.
But a huge barbecue, I would have thought, as well.
And a huge barbecue.
Yes.
We arrived in Phoenix, and we were driving from the airport, and we came up alongside a massive Chevy Silverado's the big truck, isn't it? And with the biggest gas barbecue I've ever seen, ratchet strapped in the bed. And I just said to my wife, I was like, that's the most American thing I've seen on our trip so far. It's just perfect. A fuck-off huge truck with a fuck-off huge barbecue in the back of it.
It's a bigger cooker than our local Chinese restaurant has got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. So our mate, he doesn't tow stuff, but he does lug things occasionally, and then he takes his family out in it, and it's like he could actually, and I was talking to him about the Lightning, and he's very interested in it, because it's like it could suit his life. And he did say, there's only every so often I go on a long trip in it, and that might be a bit frustrating if I couldn't do, but it's like the claimed range on the Lightning I borrowed was the top spec, and that has a slightly shorter range on it, so 300 miles official. I think I was seeing probably between 200 and 250, because the freeway driving, of which there's a lot in America, it's that weird thing where even going around a city, you get on a motorway for like 2 junctions just to get somewhere.
Yeah.
And which always seems it's sort of odd to Euro sensibilities sometimes. That you kind of go, well, aren't we just going over there? Yeah, but let's get on the motorway. It's the quickest way. And it feels strange. But that obviously knackers the range because you're trying to push a lot of air out of the way at 65 miles an hour, whatever the speed limit is. But I think it'll easily do 200, and I think 250 is realistic. And it's just a very, very pleasant machine. I think it's the most characterful electric vehicle I've ever driven.
And it's actually out for sale. You can really buy it. Whereas...
Well, you can't because there's a big wait. That's the only thing.
Oh, okay. Well,
but yes, it is on the market.
It's on the market.
You can buy it.
And people
you can buy it.
People own them in the wild.
I saw a few, and then we went to... For people who are familiar with these things, there's the Santa Monica Pier is quite a well-known attraction in the Los Angeles area. We went down there, and you can park on the pier. There's this kind of whole car park on this.
Really?
What feels like quite a rickety wooden pier. Yeah, but actually, interesting point because one of the things people always mention with electric cars is the weight. The Lightning is not a light machine, and I think it's closing in on 3 tons.
Are you now going to start the next sentence with "Sadly, the pier sunk because I parked a truck on the pier"?
The Ferris wheel has fallen in the sea. Well, no, just the street that we were staying on. We Airbnb'd a house in Santa Monica, and I noticed the street, little one-way back street, had a 3-ton limit on it. It's obviously meant to stop trucks going down there, but I realised that the Lightning was perilously close to technically not being allowed to drive down a residential street. So I was a bit worried driving onto this pier because I was like, fuck me, this thing's been here for years, and what if everyone had Lightnings, then maybe they might have to start asking you to park elsewhere. But then we parked up, and this guy came tearing across, going, "You go on, I haven't seen one yet." And he worked for Ford.
Oh, really?
And he'd just driven. He'd got another Lightning just parked nearby, and he'd just driven Route 66 from Chicago to Santa Monica, where Route 66 officially ends, as a sort of promotional exercise. And he was so excited to see another Lightning because I haven't seen another one on the road the whole trip.
Oh, wow.
Because they can't build them fast enough. They're having to extend the factory where it's made to increase capacity because it's an absolute runaway hit. And fair enough. I think it's for a lot of people, not all people, but a lot of people in America who are truck enthusiasts. I think it's probably going to do the job. And it's got all that great stuff about, you can power things off it, which you highlighted in your review, that if you go off camping or something, you could take your comforts of home and run them off the battery.
100%. And you can, and of course, the bed in the back has its own scales and just some real genius, helpful tech. I just love it. Yeah. Love it. And
it's full of little things like that. I like that I noticed in your review. I realised because in your review you did that thing. You pulled out the back step and then pulled out the little banister.
I know. I did it wrong, didn't I?
Yeah, well, because
I didn't understand it.
I was playing around with it and I discovered it goes upright, and I was like, "Hang on a minute." I remember you in your review just had it out horizontally.
I was hoping that,
like a sort of
I thought
something to help thaw a herd out of the back.
I thought it was one of those helper devices that you do put in bathrooms when people get a little bit infirm. I was thinking, oh man, this just seems a bit unnecessary. But yeah, I now gather that I got it wrong, and I apologise for that.
But this is the thing. So we went to the beach one day further up the coast, and the house we were renting had some, beach toys for kids in it. So I just threw it all in the back, the buckets and spades, and we had a couple of chairs to sit on the beach and all this stuff. And it's great. Again, so you can see the appeal of a pickup truck in that environment. And if you are quite outdoorsy, as a lot of Americans are, because they can be, because there's lots of outdoors there, just throwing things in the back and not worrying about it is great. But then when we got back to the house, everything had slid to the front of the bay.
I thought you were going to say nothing was in the back anymore.
No, that's the thing. Do you know what? I started thinking, you'd actually struggle to reach into the back if you were just a pedestrian.
Yeah.
So that probably stops people stealing stuff. But I almost wonder whether in America there's a kind of code that says don't steal stuff out the back of someone's truck while they're in it at some traffic lights. That's just, that's the very fabric of our nation you're unpicking there.
Yeah, it's not.
But that's the thing. That's how I started playing around with the steps. I was like, I need to get in the back now. But then you could just pull out that thing and climb up, and it's all quite civilised, and so you don't risk bashing your knee in a you at Reims style. And,
Oh yes,
gosh. It's another example of where they've thought this through. So one final point on the Lightning is there is apparently there's a big waiting list on it, but also the one I borrowed is the Platinum, which is the top model. It's almost $100,000, so it's not cheap. But
you don't have to
buy that one.
I
would really love to try. Well, because there's
one from 50. Does it start
range.
at 45, 48?
It's gone up now. It's $56,000 now. The Pro model,
right,
which is, I guess, aimed at, it's a proper work truck, so it doesn't have a lot of fancy things on it. It's funny enough, the Pro has the smaller battery on it, but if you're a fleet customer, you can have the Pro with the bigger battery, but you have to be you can't just be a punter. They won't sell you on at a normal dealership.
What about if
everything else can have the long range?
What about if my wife ordered it and she owns an art gallery? What about that?
And it's tax deductible.
Well, I'm just asking.
In my wife's name.
Yeah, because that's the way I would roll. Well, so you were swanning around. You were swanning around America, LA, etc. over Christmas, and I went down to Somerset. And while you're seeing things like Ford Broncos, resto-modded Broncos, and low riders, which I did enjoy you sending me pictures of.
Yeah, I'll put some of these on the show notes. Some of that, after a while, I suddenly thought I'm probably just really annoying Johnny because it's drizzly in the UK, and I keep going, oh look, I've seen an old Beetle.
Your low rider comment amused me, I have to say.
I was completely baffled by that car and how it was on 10-inch wheels. It was really bizarre.
Listen, it's a low rider thing. It has to be 13s or 14s.
Are they really 13?
They're 13. They're 13-inch reverse,
tiny.
Yeah, like deep dish wires knockoffs. Always 13s or 14s by 7s, and that is the low rider way. 100 spokes typically, or 72 spokes. I've got 100 spoke 14s. I didn't go for 13s for gearing reasons, but it's the opposite of the donk mentality.
It really is. Well, just because I just saw one at some lights and took a picture of it because I was like, what the hell is this? And I sent it to you.
And I went, that's a 64 Impala, just like the one I have that doesn't work.
I did. That's the other thing. I didn't clock that it's the same as yours. But that's the thing. Actually, just as what else I was going to say is that talking of Broncos, the new Bronco, seeing them around, nice looking car, but the soft top on that,
it's awful,
looks like the kind of hat that would be owned by your art gallery owner. Like, someone is obviously accidentally sat on their own hat.
Yeah,
it's just terrible.
The
it's so visibly ill-fitting. I mean, I don't know how it actually does against wind noise and stuff like that, but it does not look good.
Well,
it makes the car look shabby.
Well, I did a video review of the Bronco in London. And I'll tell you now, in real time, it took me about 40 minutes to take the roof off it on my own, and that's not acceptable. Now, obviously, you could even halve that time if you got into doing it regularly, but it's BS. It's the opposite of the design of the Lightning. It's not useful. Doesn't look good, no practicality at all. It's just horrible. It's just like a load of cheap flat pack furniture with no instructions and some missing parts. You just go, this is a horrible experience. I don't want to ever do it again. But I have to say, you sent to me some pickies of base model Broncos. Oh,
yeah.
Just like the modern Defender, they are so much more stylish when they're stripped back and almost non-metallic steel wheel, bare bones, no jingle jangle side steps or anything. They look great.
Here's something else about Broncos though, because I saw a lot of Bronco Spolts around in the US, the smaller ones.
Spolts,
smaller, less hardcore off-roady possibilities because it's based on a monocoque.
It's the sort of is that the sort of Diet Coke of the Bronco world, or is it the
it's Bud Light
or decaf Bronco?
Yeah. And but the interesting situation from a marketing point of view for Ford, because we're sort of paying attention to this stuff and going, okay, there's a Bronco and a Bronco Sport. They came out at the same time, and it sort of makes sense. It's a whole new family, new generation of Broncos. We were just driving along one day, and there was a Bronco Sport in front of us, and my wife went, "Oh, the new Bronco's a bit different, isn't it? Not sure about that. And I was like, no, that's not the Bronco, that's the Bronco Sport. And she went, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, just look closely. It says Sport on it, but it's not immediately obvious.
Oh, so is it subtle?
If I hadn't been there and we hadn't chatted about it, she'd have just gone, the new Bronco looks a bit shit. Because actually the Bronco Sport is not, it's all right, but it's just it is a bit,
It's easy listening Bronco,
dietary.
isn't it, unfortunately? It's well, because you've got...
Yeah.
So I guess you've got to think of it as like Discovery Sport versus Land Rover Discovery.
But I think the Discovery Sport's a nicer looking car than the full-size Discovery.
Actually, it is, yeah.
This just looks like a sort of low-quality tribute act, the Bronco Sport. And,
well, those base model Broncos, we both agreed, they give off some USSR vibes, but good USSR vibes, not Putin spec.
Yeah, there's something very sort of visibly basic about them. And
I'm down with
I don't know why that's appealing, but it is. But yes, it's almost, they look a little bit rough and ready, and that's a bit in a nice way. And I'd love to try one. Or maybe next time I go to the America, I'll ask if there's one knocking about.
So over fucking Christmas, I went down with the kids to down to the homeland, down in Somerset and all that, and I took a Volvo V60 Recharge all-wheel drive FEV, which I liked. Managed to get 53 to the gallon driving it like a normal human, which I thought was cool.
Did you?
Yeah, for a good size estate car. And really nice ride. Good suspension. I like the suspension on that bad boy. In fact, it goes back today. Sad emoji face. But I've noticed it comes with a tow bar, so actually later today I am going to drag my OAP old odd job trailer somewhere that I need to do something on. But the reason why I'm telling you this is because I went down to Somerset and spent a bit of time with the folks, and my dad had booked he'd booked the kind of Winter Lights midnight special. I can't actually remember the official title, on the steam train, which was mega. So it's a steam train covered in neons and LEDs, basically. Really charming.
This is a textbook Christmas activity.
Oh, it was lovely. It was really lovely. Little bit of mulled wine, sit in first class carriage, which is all dark wood and very spongy seats. Very, very pleasant. And I realised, we've talked about this a long time ago. You have to wave at strangers on trains because it's okay.
Of course.
And so we did a lot of stranger waving, and which was absolutely fine. And then when we were walking back home, because my folks don't live that far away from it, my dad suddenly went, "Oh, I haven't put a gift out for the bin men."
Oh,
and I went, "Oh, I want like a Christmas gift." And he went, "No, I gave them the Christmas gift before Christmas." Because this was between Christmas and New Year, by the way. And I said, but I don't really understand, Dad. You've given them a Christmas gift and you're gifting them again. He goes, I give the bin men a gift every week these days. I went, what?
What?
My dad either won't tell me that there's a protection racket going on with the bin men, you have to gift them every week. He gives them a gift every week. So I said, that's 52 gifts. You give them 52 gifts. What's going on? And I said, what are you gifting them? He goes, he said, your mum bakes for them. I said,
oh my God.
I said, hang on, Mum's baking like ground up fresh produce for the bin men. No disrespect to bin men, because I think they're good, and I do gift the bin men at Christmas, not outside of Christmas. And so Dad's like, it's a weekly thing now. But I said, the problem is, he said, the thing is, I did it during lockdown just to say thanks for carrying on when the world's circling the drain. I said, but now it's not lockdown. You should have probably stopped. He goes, yeah, I know, but I've got to keep going now because that's it. I've got to keep going. So I think he's too scared to stop gifting the bin men, which is the most random situation. I'd probably frowned it down. We were talking about it for the rest of the evening, going, what is going on with you weekly gifting bin men?
Hang on, though.
Yeah.
Was this the same evening that you introduced your dad to the guitarist falling off a chair?
Oh, my gosh. Oh, yeah.
Which we've mentioned before on the podcast. Here's a song.
Okay. Here's a song.
Angry Mancunian guitarist falling off a chair, possibly the funniest clip on the whole
It's
internet.
still one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Was that the same night where you got drunk on cider and showed him that clip?
Yeah, because my dad said, "Oh, I've got some really nice cider. Would you like a couple of ciders tonight?" And I said, "Yeah." We had a couple of, we did a few games with the kids, and then the kids went to bed, and then we kicked down a gear and went in. And little did I realise it was a very smooth cider, but it was 8.5%. So yeah, I think we probably were invading one another's personal space and talking too loudly for the rest of the night. But actually, we got disturbed by something, and this is probably as important as no-name suspension mountain bike guy in local towns riding erratically. So we also have the small town straight pipe ped guy, and I think a lot of towns around Great Britain, don't know about anywhere else, but they have the straight pipe slow ped guy. Straight pipe slow ped guy is deafening. It's absolutely deafening. But he's not really going anywhere. The other thing is he wears generic like racing jacket with fictitious sponsors. Yeah. You know the guy?
Yeah.
So from a distance it looks like a real racing jacket. It looks a bit like it could say Castrol Racing or Motul or I don't know, HRC, and then you realise it doesn't. It doesn't say any of that stuff at all. It's just similar. It's sort of like the way Aldi packages products. They look a little. Though
Sparks and Mensa.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's exactly like you go. Oh, hang on, is that they PG Tips tea bags? Oh no, they're not. They're not at all.
GP Tips.
Yeah. So yeah, but this guy, I mean, he must have had an 8-9 speed gearbox. Went tearing down the cul-de-sac. Was certainly had gone through all of the gears, but I noticed as I went to the curtains and opened it up, was watching, was rinsing all gears, but not actually proceeding any quicker. So that's the thing about. I think that's the thing about a moped. Maybe with the straight, but I think he's actually ruined the performance by straight piping it because it needed some back pressure. So although it sounds like it's going somewhere, it's not really going anywhere.
Yeah. Well, now, speaking of this, when I was away, when we went to Arizona, I rented a car and I got a Camry. I'd booked full-size brackets Camry or similar, and in fact it was just a Camry. But I was kind of interested in that because it's
Is a Camry classed as full-size now?
Yeah, but it's a hire car company full-size because there's still bigger cars in America, actually not that many, but...
I suppose full-size sedans don't really exist, do they?
Exactly. But that's the thing. I mean, there's this. You can still buy a Chrysler 300, can't you? But that's probably... I'm trying to think what else would be bigger. Anyway, the interesting thing about the Camry is that it is America's best-selling car that is genuinely a car and not an SUV or a truck. And I bet it's perfectly fine. But it had an 8-speed. It's just car.
It looked good,
but I don't mean that as it just sort of does the job really. So we had, bear in mind, we got these, we were away for almost 3 weeks, got 2 massive suitcases, and we sort of kept seemingly adding more bags of things because we had Christmas presents and stuff,
deck chairs,
and it all went in the boot of the Camry. You can see why people like these cars. They're practical, it's perfectly pleasant to drive, but it had an 8-speed auto on it.
That would have been a hand-me-down from the Lexus. I wonder if it was a hand-me-down from the Lexus from years and years ago. Oh, no, or the Lexus.
Yeah, but it's front-wheel drive, isn't it? So I don't know what it is. I think it is a Toyota box, or probably Aisin box, but it's 8-speed, very, very close ratio. So at one point, I was driving along my own. I was like, I just want to see what it was like in sport mode. And the answer is almost exactly the same as in normal mode. There's no discernible difference, really, at all.
Really?
The steering was very, very slightly heavier, and then if you put the gearbox in sports, it held onto the ratios a tiny bit longer, but only if you were really clogging it. And then the engine made a pretty horrible noise, so didn't want to do that. But I realised it was the gearbox. If you just left it alone, normal mode, and just let it change its own gears, incredibly good. Imperceptible, and part of the reason it was imperceptible is because the gears are so close together. So I decided it had paddles. I thought I'm going to do a bit of paddle shifting on the straight roads of Arizona.
Hang on, Rich. Nobody's done that before with a Camry. Nobody.
No, exactly. I was amazed
You're
the paddles were
first.
connected, and because I thought these could be ornamental paddles, but you could change up and down at least 3 gears, and just nothing happened. You know, sometimes in say like an AMG Mercedes, you go into manual mode and you pull the down paddle, and
It's like you've
immediately
licked
obvious
a
what's
9-volt battery. Yeah.
So I was just driving along at one point, just go ding, 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 just up and down the box, just to see how far I could go before
Like double
you noticed
basing
anything happening.
Double basing the gearbox.
Yeah. Yes. Dum 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 dum.
I love the startup.
Anyway.
I love the startup graphic that you recorded on the dash binnacle, where it looked like
snazzy.
Yeah, it looked like some sort of kind of film. The start of a film, you know, where it's the name of the production
like Inception
company
or something.
Yeah, you're like, oh, Camry.
Camry Pictures presents.
That's right. Yes, a Smith and Sniff production.
Yeah. It was. I'll write about the Camry. I think I'll get an Evo column out of it because it was fascinating. It's the perfect example of some car, but just done very well.
Well, I like
one,
that.
But equally, I completely understand why someone else would buy one because it's just a good car.
Hopefully, it's a reminder of people that you don't need an SUV as well. Again, look, normal car with massive boot that's really comfortable, that's fuel efficient, that just does the job. Wow, brilliant.
We should just talk about a couple of sad deaths that have happened in the past week or so. Notably, in our world, Ken Block.
I can't believe that. I still can't really believe it.
I know.
You were in America, weren't you, when it happened?
Yeah, and I was. It was one of those ones where you sort of do a double take, and you go, no, it can't be that Ken Block because he's. I didn't know how old he was, but he doesn't seem like an old man, and then of course it came to light that it was an accident in which he died. So I just wanted to acknowledge his passing and how sad we were at that, because it's funny how, and I saw this in Ollie Marriage wrote a very good obituary for the Top Gear website, and Matt Farrer from the Smoking Tyre wrote an equally good one for Road and Track. So if you're wanting to read two obits that I think completely got to the heart of why Ken Block was so good at what he did, I think they nailed it, and it was because, I mean, apart from anything else, I felt they correctly pointed out that he came along at exactly the right time. He was the sort of first, in the car world, the first YouTube superstar.
I think he was. What he definitely did was he kind of he set out to make a viral car video that was interesting to hardcore car enthusiasts and people that probably didn't care about cars, they just wanted theatre, right? But he kind of made skidding and stuff like that mainstream, and reminded people that it was fun.
Yes,
but when he did pass away, all of the outpourings of kind of sorrow from pro drivers like F1 drivers and WRC champs. So people who were more accomplished drivers than Ken, because I think the thing about Ken was, I never actually met Ken. I think you did, didn't you?
No.
But we know people that know him or knew him. They always said he was always smiling, always happy. Was never pretentious, which is quite. Sometimes when you're in a situation like that, you can be a bit cocksure, can't you?
Oh yeah.
You can come across as maybe being a bit Billy Big Balls or whatever. But I think Ken just kind of did let the cars do the talking, and I personally love the fact that he's obviously a master marketeer, right? With the DC shoes thing, he knew he wanted to grow his own brand, but he created these car characters as well, which really chimed with everybody from kids to people like us who went, okay, so new project car, it's got an interesting name and livery and style, very distinct. And it was amazing. I mean, I can't remember. Was it 2008 the first Gymkhana?
Around then.
And I remember it just blew us away. We just kept watching it.
Yeah. Well, were you on? What were you doing at that point? You on Max Power?
I was on Fifth Gear.
Oh right, yeah. Okay. So
yeah, I would have been on Fifth Gear, and we just went, "Oh my gosh, look at what this guy's done on video. That's crackers." So he did set out to create the viral. But also, I know some people used to criticise him and go, yeah, but when he goes on a world rally stage, he's either does not finish or comes 10th. And I was like, but it's okay because he's sort of he doesn't have to do it. He's a multi-millionaire guy that could have retired the minute he sold DC shoes. But he kind of chose to just do a bit of like hobbyist stuff and just market it really cleverly, and he was out there for fun. And he's influenced a whole legion of people.
And that's the thing, and you realise how good he was at doing that Gymkhana sort of thing, because other people have tried and it's just not as good.
Yeah.
And you realise that it's there's a great deal of skill, not just in the driving itself, but in the planning of the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I think it's really interesting that he came along at the right time to embrace the change and the move towards YouTube particularly, and the way that videos there can just exist sort of in and of themselves, because what he did, it would be a harder sell in TV world, in the trad TV world, because they go, well, they're not long enough to be a TV show.
That's right.
You couldn't do half an hour of this. It would get exhausting. So you'd have to build it into something else, and that would dilute its appeal. But he realised that this new format had come along that allowed him just to do these self-contained things that were as long as they needed to be, and to be just sort of a visual spectacle for the sake of it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And the millions and millions of views proves that he was absolutely on the money there. He was a product of a new era of media, and he used it absolutely perfectly and set a template for lots and lots of people coming after him. So it's an innovator apart from anything else, and probably didn't get enough credit for that, just embracing the format so brilliantly.
And I guess not long before the tragedy took place, he was dicking around with electric Audi Quattros, wasn't he?
And like you said, the outpourings from pro drivers, and just anyone who'd met him seemed to speak of what a nice bloke he was.
Yeah.
And it seemed entirely sincere. So that was sad news. And then also, it happened just before Ken Block died, was the death of Tom Carron, the designer, who was the designer of the Reliant Scimitar.
Ogle.
And the Bond
Ogle designer. Is this
Ogle design, yeah.
The Rally Chopper, yes.
So I just wanted to acknowledge that, because he was, again, one of those people who I think I said on social media, and it wasn't a particularly original thought, but he's the man who designed the 70s, basically, I think, all the good bits of the 70s.
Yeah, it's true though, isn't it? Did you say he designed the Scimitar?
Yeah, well, he certainly was, he was part of the team at Ogle that did the Scimitar and the Reliant Robin and the Bond Bug and all of those.
Oh, the Bond Bug, of course. God, that is nothing more 70s than Bond Bug next to a bloody Rally Chopper. I mean, wow.
Yeah.
I want to end this podcast, apart from saying thanks to everyone that's that comments and listens and seems to enjoy it on a Monday. Are you one of these people that buys a new thing or a new piece of technology but then doesn't immediately use it? I'm saying this because I'm recording this podcast on an Apple laptop, which I've had for quite a long time. Let's say 5 years, 6 years, which in computer years is a reasonable amount of time. I actually bought a new one 2.5 months ago, and I still haven't even got it out of the box because I'm doing that whole thing of like, the old one's it's sort of comfortable and it's still got all my stuff on it and it still kind of works. Yeah. And I think there's car people like that, because there was an old lady in the town near me who had 2 Escorts, and one was every day and one was for weekends and special occasions. They were essentially the same car. One was left outside, one was garaged. And it's just weird, because ultimately what happened is she passed away and one of them was immaculate and hadn't ever been used, and the other one was just crumbling to death on the drive. And it was like, what were you ever going to do with the worshipped one? It's like, it's not like it's a Maserati, is it?
Keep it for best.
It's sort of the same car, though. It's just weird.
Well, yes, but it's like having good tea towels or something for when people come around, or something like that.
I wouldn't have a good tea towel. The cat will defecate on mine, unfortunately. So
before we go, I have 3 things to tell you. One, Johnny has a solo YouTube channel. It's called The Appropriate Crakes Show, in which Johnny steals ground-living birds without permission. If that's not to your taste, then there's always The Late Break Show. Lots of excellent car videos on there for you to enjoy, including, if you want to go back into the archive, F-150 Lightning and new Bronco reviews, both done in the UK.
And also the world's most expensive Vauxhall Chevette Resto Mod.
Oh, yes.
Which will be coming out imminently. Yes.
Second thing I've got to tell you is I have various books out. And over Christmas, people kept asking me, have you written any book recently? And I went, oh, actually, no, I haven't. So I probably should do that at some point. So I will go on with it. But in the meantime, go and buy Boring Car Trivia 3. And your enthusiasm for that may encourage me to do a fourth one. And the third thing I've got to tell you is that lemurs have two tongues.
Lemurs?
Yeah.
Wow.
They have a second smaller tongue with no taste buds in it, just for cleaning the tooth comb at the front of their mouths, which they use to groom themselves, and then they just have a little extra tongue, an auxiliary tongue.
Oh my gosh!
Like one of those sort of little extra sun visors that you sometimes get behind the rearview mirror in posh cars.
Yes.
So yeah, just to have a clean their teeth.
I've got a fourth thing to tell you, listeners, and that is, Smith and Sniff has some ultra new, all new merchandise. And it's
yes, I forgot about that.
And if we were going to be modern about it, we'll say it's about to drop. In fact, we might.
It's about to drop. Will it be in the shop?
Should we drop it on the day that this comes out? Let's drop it. Let's try and drop it.
All right.
But
merch drop.
But if we don't, there'll be a small technical problem, and we'll drop it as quickly as we can thereafter. But basically, there's some all fresh new merch,
new designs. So we've got a new Spolt design, new
on that side of things,
and
Steam Rally Roggen. We've got a picture of a static engine with "It'll do this all day" written underneath. Yes.
So there are mugs, there are t-shirts, there are stickers. I think the stickers look excellent, particularly. Yes, go and
they're subtle.
Check it out at our merch shop. I'll put a link in various places. And if you enjoy this, why not, I don't know, leave us a review, like, subscribe, do all that sort of stuff that you're supposed to ask people to do these days. And we will do this all again next week. But until then, thank you ever so much for listening. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye. Okay. Here's a song.
Here's a podcast.
Fuck! Broke it out! Can you hold my guitar, please?